What up, just for you? Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope everybody's doing all right. Um, adaptation. Adaptation is, I think I'm 50-50 with adaptation. I think I'm pretty good in a lot of ways, but in other ways, I missed the ball a lot. But that's probably true of most of us. And I mean, nobody's perfect in 100, 100% in every aspect, so there's always room for improvement. But, uh, my sister told me to talk about this a little bit because I mentioned, kind of a interesting background. But I was not born over here. Most of my friends who know me, anybody who knows me personally, knows somewhat my history. But for anyone who does not know, I was not born in America. I was born in Italy. My parents are military. They're Air Force. We lived around the world. Blah blah blah. Basically, I moved to America basically when I was pretty much going to junior high. Um, my dad's from Louisiana. My mom's from Texas. Moved back to Louisiana and went through the rest of junior high school, college, kind of went from boy to a man, and kind of that New Orleans area. New Orleans, basically, I was from Reserve. Shout out Laplace Reserve, all that good stuff. Haha, didn't think I was going to do it, but yeah, spent a lot of time there, Hammond, Louisiana, stuff like that. But one thing that kind of growing up the way I did, and I'm pretty old now, so but there was no internet or anything like that. But one thing growing up the way I did, it's very different when you move from you're in Mississippi for 2 years and then you move to the Philippines. It's and you move then you go to California, then Texas and Ohio, then and you bounce around a lot. Um, pros and cons to both, but you learn to adapt to your situation and your environment very, 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 very quickly. You have to. Um, Either that or you won't survive. For me growing up, it wasn't a survival. I guess it wasn't at instinct, but I didn't have to worry about basic skills. I was a kid, but especially going from that type of living environment on a base overseas, where hey, we're all American here. People off base might not see you that way. Then when you get to the United States, very, very different. I was I was very naive when I moved here. I was almost Eddie Murphy in Coming to America when I moved here. No Eddie Murphy jokes because people say I look like him. Um, but I really was naive. I really thought, this is I was gonna get to America and it was this great, the land of rainbows and everyone was just one big happy family, like the little place where all the Munchkins lived in the Wizard of Oz, and that's how it was. Not the case, and I adapted very quickly. I adapted very quickly, especially going to high school and like junior high and stuff. I remember a good friend of mine who will probably, if he watches this video, CP shout out. But I remember when we first met in junior high, he got mad at me and literally picked me up and put me in one of those big 50-gallon drum trash cans, put me down headfirst in the trash can, like in like seventh grade. It was a great story. It's funny. You might want to know that story now. We're great friends now, went to high school and everything, but I just, like I said, another video, I never fit in. I was always kind of that weird, odd kid. Um, and I had to adapt to my environment very quickly. That didn't mean I changed who I was. I'm still me, never changed. But I learned, grew, and adapted very quickly when and where to say stuff, when and where to do stuff, how and where to act, all that good stuff like that. Um, Other altercations have grown with run-ins with the law. That if we had camera phones back then, oh my gosh, there'd be some crazy stuff out. But I mean, personally, we've had a few, but I had to learn to adapt to that. I had to learn to adapt to being the different culture. Usually I was always going to a different culture and I had to adapt to their ways, and then I had to adapt to, okay, Ryan, you need to you stand out. Even amongst your own culture, you stand out. But you got to be able to adapt in everything, especially nowadays with the way things are changing. This coronavirus has a lot of stuff changing. Education is probably going to change here very soon, the way it's done, because, well, now almost everyone is doing home learning if your kids are still going to school. Stuff like that. Um, Banking, things like that. There's things taking a lot of big hits. How medical field and, pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, with the cost of them, the super inflated cost. How is that being? So it's going to do a lot of changing. You have to be able to adapt to this. The world is going digital. If you don't want to learn how to use a computer, fine, but you better be able to hunt and skin a deer and cook your own food and grow your own vegetables and all that good stuff like that there. Like, because the world is going to go digital, you better be able to adapt with it. There's just no way around it. How do you adapt? The only thing I can tell you with that is experience. There's really no practice for adapting. You just kind of have to go through it, and you either come out ahead or you come out behind and you work extra hard to get ahead. That's pretty much the only thing I can think of. I haven't come out on top every time I had to adapt. Some adaptations, they were tough. They were hard mentally, some were hard emotionally. Been through, everybody's been through their struggles in their life and stuff. The especially if you're over 30, you probably have some speed bumps that you've gone over in your life. We've all had that, and you had to adapt. Fortunately, I guess with me learning how to adapt at such a young age, I'm really not a panicker when situations come up. I was not the person rushing to the store to fight people to snag, 10 rolls of toilet paper. Not me. Been through too many natural disasters to go through that. Anybody who's been through a couple hurricanes knows. It's not how they act down south when it's time to get stuff down south. When a hurricane comes. But you adapt. Adaptation breeds growth. Generally, the same thing happens twice. You'll already know how to go through it. But I think I said in another video before, if you had to pick up and leave right now, would you be okay? So, an adaptation is very difficult for a lot of people. A lot of people struggle with adaptation. In a sense, like, that's how people get stuck at one job that they hate for like 10, 15 years. Like, I can do this, but it's change. Most people just don't like change. When you boil it all down to it, can you adapt to change or not? The answer is yes. You can. You watch it all the time on TV. If you like zombie shows, the survivors have had to adapt multiple times on the fly to survive. Your survival instincts will kick in. Not saying everything's going to be raw, gritty, and you're going to be cutting throats and stuff. No. But adapting really isn't hard. It's just like taking that first leap of faith, more or less. It's just that first step, just tough. Actually, no, it's not. It's more scary than tough. Like that first hill on a roller coaster. You're not gonna you'd be good, but you still get that butterfly, like, oh, and most people can't get past that. Usually, you have to be forced into adaptation. So, if you can get past being forced into adaptation and accepting and creating adaptation, that might help you progress further. That's something I work on constantly, kind of like now. Got a lot of stuff I'm trying to adapt into my life personally. One thing is these videos, so my friends can go watch them and remind me of, like, hey, you said this yourself, right? You got me. Shout out Anthony. I can't deny it. You know what? I did. I put it on wax. I put it out there for the world to see. So, and then, this is not do as I say, not as I do. Lead by example. So, that being said, just for you. Later.